He moved in during early spring, when the city was still thawing from a winter that had felt heavier than usual, not because of snow or silence, but because of that slow kind of grayness that settled inside your bones rather than outside your windows. The apartment was small, clean, and quiet, the kind of place he had hoped to find, just distant enough from the center to feel removed, but still accessible if he ever decided to see someone again. But he rarely did. Not anymore. The hallway that led from his front door to the main room was short, 5 steps, exactly, if he walked naturally. He had noticed it the very first day, when the landlord showed him the place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he was standing in the living room, with its solitary window and muted walls. It was oddly comforting, that neat little distance, like the space was calibrated just right. But at night, it changed. He didn't notice it immediately. The first time was subtle. He had gotten up in the dark, half asleep, heading to the kitchen for water. He walked. He counted out of habit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but he wasn't there yet. He frowned. Another step. 6. Still the hallway. He stopped, heart slow but aware. He turned back, looked behind him, the door to his bedroom felt farther now, as if the walls had leaned outward, breathed out slightly, just enough to stretch. He continued. 7, 8, 9, finally, after 12 steps, he emerged into the living room. He thought he had dreamed it. That maybe he was too groggy, too deep in that early night fog where distances and shapes feel slippery. But the next night, it happened again. This time, he was awake, clear-headed. He had spent hours unable to sleep, scrolling pointlessly through news and emails, until finally he got up, craving something cold. And again, from the bedroom doorway to the living room entrance, 12 steps. He retraced his path. Slowly. Carefully. 12 again. In the morning, as sunlight diffused faintly through the window, he tried it once more. 5 steps. Exactly. No more, no less. He paced it 3 times. The hallway seemed to hum with precision in daylight. Angles exact. Corners honest. Walls fixed. By the 4th night, it wasn't just the number of steps. It was the sound. During the day, his footfalls were soft, the muted creak of old wood, faint and expected. At night, the floor seemed deeper, the boards slightly hollow, as if walking on them activated some space below, a void just thinly veiled beneath the surface. Each step echoed more than it should have. The walls felt tighter. Not physically, but in presence, as if the hallway was watching him pass through it. He kept the lights on the next night. That familiar, amber bulb humming above the corridor. He hoped the brightness would shrink the hallway back into submission. He stood at the edge. Counted his breaths. Then walked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still the hallway. 6, 7, he moved more quickly now. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The light didn't change anything. It felt worse with the light. Because he could see the unchanged walls, the unmoving floor, and yet the walk stretched longer than it physically should. He measured it. With tape. Corner to corner. The exact same length every time. 3 meters, roughly. Day or night. The hallway did not grow. Not on paper. Not in numbers. But in experience, it absolutely did. Eventually, he stopped turning off the lights at all. The apartment became a place of soft, constant illumination. But still, the hallway refused to obey time. He stopped using it after dark. Started keeping everything he needed for the night on his bedside table. Water, charger, books. He told himself it was efficiency. But he knew. He knew he didn't like that feeling, of being stretched, elongated, measured, every time he crossed those boards after sunset. Then came the night when he heard something move behind him. He had broken his rule, forgotten to bring his phone. Walked out just past midnight. Step by step. Counting. 5. 6. 7. And there, around the 9th step, he froze. Something like the echo of breath, but not his. He turned. Nothing. But the space behind him felt too deep, like the bedroom door had slid away further than it should have. He didn't move for a long time. And when he did, it was not because he was no longer afraid, but because standing still felt like an invitation to something he didn't understand. That night, when he finally lay down, he knew the hallway was not expanding. It was becoming aware. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't finished. The next morning he didn't test the hallway. He didn't count. He avoided looking at it entirely, as if by ignoring its presence, he might dissolve whatever subtle pact had begun forming between them. But by evening, the air was already different. It wasn't something he could articulate, just a slight pressure, a tautness in the walls, as if the space itself was holding a breath too long. By midnight, he found himself standing at the threshold again. Not because he wanted to. Not because he needed anything. But because it felt like the hallway was waiting. Not ominously. Not cruelly. Just patiently. Expectantly. Like something that knew eventually, he would come. He stepped in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He should have been at the other side. But the space was still hallway. 6, 7, 8. Still no exit. 9, 10. The walls did not move. The floor did not creak. But his body knew the space was stretching. 11, 12. He paused. Still hallway. And then, 13. He turned. The bedroom behind him was gone. Or rather, it had been replaced with another stretch of identical corridor. Same walls. Same floor. Same bulb overhead. He took another step, almost involuntarily. 14. Still corridor. No doors. No corners. Just forward. He turned again. The other side, identical. The hallway had become directionless, a tunnel carved not into the architecture, but into his sense of sequence. He told himself this wasn't real. That he was dreaming. Or half-dreaming. That eventually his mind would snap back into alignment, and he'd be standing in his flat, one hand on the wall, muttering a confused laugh. But each step further made that fantasy harder to believe. Because each step felt right, the texture under his foot, the rhythm of his breathing, the stillness around him, all of it was painfully believable. He stopped again at what might have been the 22nd step. Counted backward. Then forward. All steps led to more hallway. The light above remained constant, flickering softly but never changing position. He looked up, hoping to trace the wire, but the ceiling stretched into blackness far above the reach of any bulb. Eventually, out of exhaustion more than courage, he sat. Rested his back against the wall. It was warm. Pulsing slightly. As if the hallway was breathing him in. When he finally stood again, time had collapsed into stillness. He didn't know how long he'd been there, minutes, hours, but when he walked again, something changed. The hallway remained the same, but now his footsteps had an echo, not one that followed him, but one that preceded him, as if the sound of walking arrived before the act itself. It wasn't possible. But it was happening. Then came the voice. It wasn't spoken. Not aloud. It was a voice he heard in the back of his skull, familiar and deeply alien. Not words, exactly, but a presence. It didn't say turn around or keep walking. It just existed, pressed softly against the inside of his thoughts, like hands resting on his mind. And with that pressure came a pull, not from the front, not from behind, but from within the hallway itself, as though the space was folding inward, drawing him into some central axis he couldn't see.